Hi, Michael Young here. I'm the founder and CEO of Transformed. Welcome to this video on the 10 buying mistakes for prospective clients and students. We often hear horror stories from clients who have wasted their time and money with dodgy training providers. Based on our extensive experience in the industry, we've put together a report which shows the mistakes that people often make. We call them buying mistakes because they result in what is known as buyer's remorse. That is, the terrible feeling that you've made the wrong decision and have either been ripped off or feel like you've wasted your money. What we've done is put this together to help you make better decisions and to make sure you're fully informed when you go to talk to providers and make sure that you don't feel ripped off and don't waste your money. So let's dive straight in. Mistake number 1, thinking all qualifications are the same, so the cheapest is okay. Whilst it's true that each qualification is based on the standard training package, a qualification consists of both core and elective units. However, not all electives are offered by each training provider. Every training provider selects particular electives that they will offer. Registered Training Organisations, or RTOs, are also responsible for writing or purchasing their own learning and assessment materials. Most simply purchase off-the-shelf materials from one of the small number of course material publishers. Much of the material available for purchase is of poor quality and often doesn't meet the expectations of industry or employers. There have been numerous issues with these materials recently, as RTO regulator ASQA has identified that RTOs didn't meet the required standards. This was primarily because the RTO couldn't tailor the materials to learners' needs because the RTO didn't own the copyright and therefore could only use the materials as is. So the tip: top-notch RTOs write their own material and have it verified and endorsed by industry peak bodies. Mistake number 2, it's best to work through a training broker. There are many organisations operating as training brokers. The practice has come under scrutiny recently as many of the issues with the vocational education and training sector that have been in the media have been largely due to poor and unethical practice by training brokers. There are many stories of brokers offering incentives to sign up, such as free laptops, or signing up unemployed people for $30,000 courses that will either never complete or never be able to pay back. Brokers are nothing more than sales agents who are often paid or pay their staff on a commission-only basis. Sales staff are therefore incentivised and highly motivated to just get the sale, rather than to work out what is best for you as the student. Once you sign up, you find out that you only then find out who you're studying with, and you never see the broker again. Whatever promises they make to you may not be honoured by the RTO, and often you're not able to ensure that those promises are legally enforceable. So there's very little recourse against the broker. So the tip: you should only deal directly with the RTO. They are the ones that deliver the training and the assessment, and they are the ones that must comply with the dozens of requirements and regulations under the National Vocational Education and Training Standards and legislation. So they have the final say about what happens, not the broker. Mistake number 3, assuming all training providers are the same. The level of training support, materials provided, and experience, i.e. the subject matter expertise of the trainers and assessors, can differ largely between training providers. Many people provide materials that have been purchased off the shelf and are often not relevant or even particularly useful. Many providers are not also engaged in industry, they also don't engage industry experts as trainers and assessors, but instead they engage career teachers who often not worked in the industry for many years. It's important to understand that the training regulator, ASQA, and the auditors are not subject matter experts. So when it comes to an audit, the focus is on paperwork complying with the regulations, and the content, relevance and usefulness of the qualifications not really examined. In addition, the definitions of industry currently used by the regulator are often broad and interpreted very loosely. An RTO can meet the standards by talking to one employer or having one of their trainers pay the annual fee to an industry body, for example. Many RTOs also don't have their courses endorsed by industry peak bodies, so there's no assurance that the qualification will actually result in you learning anything useful or relevant to the modern workplace. The content needs to be examined by experienced industry experts to ensure that you, as the paying customer, get something that is relevant, useful and current. So the tip: you should always look for reputable providers who have a track record of success. Ask what awards they have won and what their completion rates are. Mistake number 4, assuming training providers guarantee completion of the qualification. When you sign up for a qualification, you ideally want to complete it. However, completion rates, i.e. the proportion of students that finish all the training and assessment to achieve their qualification, is typically very low. Most RTOs have a completion rate of around about 30%. In other words, that means 30% who start a qualification with that RTO actually complete it and get their certificate or diploma. Poor RTOs have completion rates as low as 5%, and the best RTOs have completion rates around about 90%. Completion rates vary between qualification levels. Rates are generally lower for higher level qualifications, so advanced diplomas for example, but they also vary by qualification types. It's also actually a breach of the VET standards for an RTO to guarantee an outcome, i.e. they can't guarantee or they won't guarantee that you finish. But it's always good to ask what the RTO will do to support your learning. So generally what you tend to see is with RTOs, the high completion rate that the RTO has, something around the 90%, tends to suggest that they provide better support. So generally that better support might come in the form of coaching, it could be webinars, or it may well be inherent in the way that the program's structured and delivered, and ultimately through all of those means you're able to achieve the outcome, that is completion of the qualification. So a tip, ask the RTO for their completion statistics for the qualification before you sign up. You might actually be surprised at how low it is. Also, if they don't actually know what their completion rate is, pretty good indication you might want to steer clear. Mistake number 5, not recognising that only RTOs can obtain government funding and subsidised places. RTOs have the opportunity to secure government funding, subsidised places offered through state and territory education departments. This is not available to training brokers and in most cases employers or industry bodies. Government subsidised places, whilst not free, can mean you can pay as little as 10% of the total qualification fee, with the state government or the territory government providing the rest. The amount of subsidies will vary depending on the state and territory. It also varies based upon the qualification you're actually undertaking. So you do need to actually do some research and find out what applies in your state. You also need to understand that the qualification criteria and the application process also vary by state and territory. So talk to the RTO and find out, particularly those that are offering subsidised funding, they can actually provide you guidance and advice as to what's required and whether you might qualify. So the tip, work with an RTO that offers government subsidised places. They can advise what is available, what eligibility requirements exist, and how you go about applying for it. Mistake number 6, assuming all trainers and assessors have industry experience. Under the NVR standards, RTOs are required to ensure that trainers have industry currency and are competent. However, what this actually means is not clearly specified. This means that trainers and assessors don't actually need to have any industry experience, but could demonstrate they're currently doing nothing more than signing up as a member of an industry body and reading the magazine or newsletter each month. Many trainers and assessors have industry experience, but mostly it's 10 plus years ago. They've been locked up in a training organisation ever since that time. As we all know, industry has moved on, and with technology and regulatory changes, anyone who isn't actively working within an industry day to day quickly goes out of date. Some training providers employ people who have never worked in the industry, largely to save money. The best RTOs use trainers and assessors who work part-time in industry and part-time in training. This ensures they are up to date on current trends, common issues, and will also have a heap of relevant and recent examples to share. So the tip, asking about the specific industry currency and experience the RTOs, trainers and assessors have, and in particular ask about the most recent project they did in industry. You might be surprised at how out of date they actually are. Mistake number 7, assuming vet fee help is a cheap option. Vet fee help has been in the media a lot lately and may be mistakenly seen as a cheap way to complete a qualification. It's a big mistake. Firstly, vet fee help is not free money. It's not a cheap course or a free course. In fact, it's actually a loan that accrues interest and must be paid back once you reach the repayment threshold. Most providers offer vet fee help courses charge $15,000 to $30,000 for qualification, which can be as much as 10 times the price of a fee-for-service option. The amount you pay back is higher again, as there's interest as well as a 20% loading on top of the cost of the qualification. Leading RTOs offer payment plans where the cost can be broken down into easy monthly payments over 6 to 12 months. This means you pay much less and won't be left with a huge tax bill or used with a huge debt even that's bigger than the cost of the average car. We don't want to end up having you with getting a large tax bill at the end of each year. So the tip, look for a payment plan option rather than vet fee help, or even talk to your provider about other government subsidised places. Mistake number 8, RTO non-compliance means your qualification could be withdrawn. When poor training and assessment practices have been found by the regulator at audit, the RTO can have the certificates that they have issued cancelled. This means that your certificate may be formally withdrawn and you may have to go to another organisation to do it all over again. Whilst this is not common, it has happened on many occasions in the past 18 months, particularly when it's been found that the assessment was nothing more than a tick and flick. RTOs have to comply with the vet standards, and so it's important to understand what their compliance history is. So, the tip. Ask training providers if they have had any adverse audit findings recently that might compromise the quality of your qualification. It's also worthwhile asking the provider for their ASCO risk rating. This has been provided to all RTOs over the last few months, and generally what you're wanting to see is a risk rating of presumed compliant or compliant. Mistake number 9, not recognising that training is offered in different learning modes. Training providers use a range of different delivery methods. Most offer only face-to-face training in either block sessions over a number of days or through shorter 2-hour sessions each week over a longer period of time, say 2 to 3 years. Quite often what we see is that most providers want to have you sit in a classroom. However, there's a whole pile of reasons not to do this. Innovative organisations are offering interactive methods. They're using self-paced online courses and a number of different type technology platforms. They also offer an assessment-only pathway known as recognition of prior learning, or RPL for short. But not all RTOs offer different delivery methods, and not all RTOs offer RPL. Each RTO offers a specific delivery mode or a combination of learning modes. Leading RTOs examine your background and experience and any existing qualifications to determine whether you're eligible for any credits or whether an RPL pathway is the best approach given your circumstances. Many RTOs, however, just put you into a classroom where you have to sit through hours or days of material that you already know. So the tip. Gain recognition for existing skills and knowledge and experience by using the RPL method and fill any gaps through a customised training program. This will not only save you time, but it'll also save you money and stop you having to sit through training where you already know it and therefore can get bored and disenfranchised with the entire process. Mistake number 10, assuming that RPL means automatic credit or you can get a qualification by doing very little. A common thinking mistake we often come across is that some students think that undertaking a qualification by RPL means you just automatically get signed off for the entire qualification or specific units. Alternatively, what they think is all they need to do is provide their CV or their resume, and that's enough. RPL requires you to provide evidence of what you've done, what you know, and also the jobs you've performed and supporting evidence based on qualifications, based on your work experience, and so on, in terms of what you're currently doing or what you've recently done. Credit transfer is available, but are dependent upon how recent you did the study, as well as on whether or not the content you study has changed at all over a recent period of time. For credit transfer to be granted, you need to have completed the identical unit or a unit that is actually deemed to be equivalent. So the tip, RPL takes time, but it's still quicker than completing training and assessment provided you have the skills, knowledge and experience. There's no point sitting through another class on a subject you may well be an expert in. So, do you want more tips? Download the transcript of this video, you don't need to provide your email address or register in any way, by going to this link, http://bit.ly/buying_mistakes.